Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Christina and today is another declutter. Today we're going to be going through all of my single shadows and my eyeshadow palettes and decluttering them. I am not too sure I'm going to actually declutter too many of my eyeshadow palettes. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of not buying too many, and the ones that I have bought I have generally enjoyed. So I don't know if my eyeshadow palettes will actually be very successful, but I know some of my singles are probably going to be, and I have one category in particular where I'm about to just be really cutthroat. So if you would like to see what I end up decluttering out of this section, definitely make sure to keep on watching. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Now, let's get into it. Alright, so I have all of my eyeshadow palettes and single shadows right here. We're gonna get started with my singles, and let's go. In this container, I have all of my Colourpop Super Shocks, and I am probably about to just destroy everyone because I am decluttering all of these. Don't use them. I haven't used them in a really long time. There's pan in a lot of them, but for the most part, they've all gotten dry. Or I reordered some that I liked and the color had changed, and I'm just done with Super Shocks, basically. I haven't ordered any in a long time. I don't know if I'm going to be. I just don't use them as often. The ones that I do end up enjoying are mainly top coats, but I have plenty of other shadows in my collection that I can do that with. So they're all going, every single one. Goodbye. Moving on into this little guy. This is a little Colourpop single shade palette. It is mainly Colourpop shades in here. I actually used these guys today. Didn't realize how dirty this was. I apologize. I don't think there's many I want to get rid of because I generally do reach for a lot of these. I think the only one that I haven't touched very often is this shimmery red, which it is honestly probably pretty similar to the one in here, to this one. Let me swatch these two. Okay, there's the Colourpop one. Actually, the Beach Cosmetics one is definitely darker, yeah. They are different, but I don't think different enough for me to warrant both of them. So I'm actually going to get rid of this Colourpop one. I also don't think it's as pigmented as I want. So I'm also going to declutter the single. Not great in my singles, but honestly, it's not that bad. So I feel pretty good. That's done. Now I'm gonna move into this section right here, which are all of my relatively small palettes. We'll start out with the one I just talked about, my BH Cosmetics Drop Dead Gorgeous Little Bit Psycho palette. This is one of my newest palettes and I absolutely adore this thing. I have a whole video swatching this, so if you want to see swatches of this palette in particular, I will link that up above in a card. So definitely go check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I love this palette, definitely gonna keep. Next little palette is this guy. This was such a disappointment. This is one of the e.l.f. bite-sized palettes. This is the little acai one. And I'm gonna end up decluttering this. It just was so disappointing. It didn't really have any color payoff in the shades that I really wanted. It swatches a lot better than it really applies. So it's disappointing in that way too. But even, look at that, like even those swatches are pretty disappointing. So definitely decluttering. Next palette is this little Makeup Revolution donut palette. This is the strawberry donut. This is also pretty similar to that shade I actually got rid of, isn't it? So I definitely don't need that single shade. I do generally like all of these shadows. They're really, really nice. This palette's just really cute. I need to use it more, but overall, really like it, gonna keep it. Next palette is the Colourpop Zodiac Palette. I absolutely adore this. As you can see, it has some pan in it. There's pan right there. I worked on this in one of my Pan That Eyeshadows videos, and I just really like it. I think eventually I will have a lot more pan in here because overall I really enjoy this palette. I feel like this one doesn't need to be talked about at all. This is the Persona Identity palette. This is of course the original. I would love to buy the updated version here soon, but for now this is my original. This was the eyeshadow I used during my wedding, and as you can see I have 3 pans in here. This will probably eventually get completely panned. I have a couple palettes in mind for a Pan That palette for 2021, which you guys know I haven't really done, but I think this could be a good one for the Pan That palette series, and then I can buy like the updated version of this for like my anniversary or something, which I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, let me know. I have a couple on the chopping block, I think, for Pan That palette, and I'll mention the other ones. Let me know down in the comments which one you guys would be interested in seeing. Next palette is Dream Street. This one also has pan in it. This is just like a classic palette, and I really like it, but it's kind of like a maybe. So I'm gonna put this in a maybe pile, and it's strange that I'm saying that because I really do enjoy this palette. It even has pan in it, but I don't know. I feel like I haven't reached for it as much. I haven't been enjoying it quite as much. I feel like there's a few shades in here that I just like never use, so I'm putting it in the maybe pile. Next palette is my Lime Crime Venus 2. I do really enjoy a lot of these shades, but I don't enjoy all of them. I almost feel like I should depot this because I hate how bulky the packaging is. Yeah, I love the art style of the packaging, so it's I don't know. But I don't love all of these shades. I feel like I don't really like this green. I don't really like this one down here. I'm not a huge fan of the black. I tried to use that in a eyeshadow roulette and I just didn't really like it. I don't even really like this blue that much. I feel like it's like not that impressive on, like it doesn't, it's pretty sheer. I do like this one a good bit, but I don't use it very often. It's like super grungy. But I don't use it super often because it is super grungy. So I don't know, this one's kind of a maybe as well. I'm gonna put it in the maybe pile. Next palette is this little Storybook Cosmetics one. This is, I think, the Little Red Riding Hood one. And generally, I like this palette a good bit as well. I mean, I have a lot of these like same red tone shimmers, but I like this palette. Nothing wrong with it. I do wish it wasn't so bulky, so maybe this will be one I end up depotting at some point, but overall, I do like the actual shades. Keeping. Next up is my Honey palette. This guy definitely isn't going anywhere. I'm currently working on this shade in my Pan Those Eyeshadow series. I used this palette again today. I have the glitter on my lids, and it's just, I love this palette. Definitely keeping. Also, yes, it's out of order. I dropped it. All of the shadows popped back, and I think I switched to these two shades or something. Some of these are in the wrong order. Next up is my Colourpop Blue Moon palette, which I've somehow wiped off. Like, why does no one else's palettes look like this? Mine seem to be the only ones. Like, all of the writing is coming off of my Colourpop palettes. I hate it. Anyways, keeping this palette, most definitely. Love these shades. Billie Jean is one of my favorites, as well as Lumi. I like a lot of these shades, actually. The blues are a lot better than, like, the blues that are, like, than the blue, like, in the Venus palette. So, yeah, definitely keeping this one. Next up is my Milani Bold Obsessions palette. This one I'm also considering to do for a Pan That palette for next year. I do have pan on this shade, and I'm pretty close on pan on this shade, and I feel like it would also be pretty easy to pan this whole palette as well. So this is the other one that another one that I'm considering, but I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to keep this because I do enjoy this palette a lot. I think Milani's eyeshadow formula is really nice, and I just generally really like it. Next up is another Milani palette. This is the Everyday Eyes eyeshadow, and I have kept this for so long. This was one of my first Milani palettes, and I do still really like this. I think the shades are all beautiful and perfect, and I have no complaints. I honestly haven't reached for this in so long, and I've had it for years at this point, that I think I'm finally going to just part with it and declutter it. Next up is my Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette, and I do really like this as well. I was considering this being a palette to do the Pan That palette series on, but I don't know. I don't know if I could dedicate using these tones for a very long time, but I'm hoping at least we get some of these in like my Pan That eyeshadows series instead. That way I can work on like independent ones, because I would like to see some pan in here. As you can see, this one is probably my most used shade, but I do love these tones. I think they're beautiful shadows. Definitely going to keep this. And then we have my Violet Voss Essentials palette, which I'm also working on in Pan That eyeshadows. I think these eyeshadows perform really well, and I think they're really pretty. So definitely going to keep this guy around as well. Moving into some more mid-sized palettes now. This is the Zoeva matte palettes. This was the last palette I got in a BoxyCharm before I canceled mine, and these are surprisingly really great shadows. I think overall the formula is really good, and they're all matte, which I really like. I particularly, you can see where the mess is in this palette. I really like these two brown shades. I just think they're really great and versatile for everyday use. Just really generally nice, creamy, easy to use shadows. Definitely going to keep this one as well. I'm just going to lump my two Juvia's Place palettes together because I'm not going to get rid of them. I have the Zulu right here, and I have the Tribe. I like both of these a lot. My favorite in this one is this shimmer shade because it's like a green shift. It's so cool. It's like one of my favorite inner corner highlights, especially if you do a green eye look. It's just so cool on the inner corner highlight. I like these, keeping them. Next up, I have the It's Judy Time by Pixie palette, and I was debating on getting rid of this one, but since I got rid of this Milani one, I think I will end up keeping this guy. I like that there's a lot of matte shades. I love the formula of these, and I think it's just a really nice, easy palette. It is really similar to the Milani palette, in my opinion, like very similar tones. honestly. Honestly, looking at both of these palettes, they're basically identical in a lot of their tones. So maybe I don't need both of them. No, that's too much. The It's Judy Time palette has these better like mid-tone brown shades than the Milani one does. I know they're similar, I know they are, but different enough that I'm justifying it. Next is the beautiful Francation palette. You guys know this one's not going anywhere. Absolutely adore this palette, use it all the time. Gonna have pan in it here soon, and that makes me very excited, definitely keeping. Next, I have my Alamar palette, which I'm honestly surprised. This is gonna be in the maybe pile, and not because like I dislike it for any real reason, but there's just so many shades in here I don't use. So this is honestly on the maybe because I may end up depotting a lot of these. I would love to keep these two right here because they're beautiful and the top shimmer shades, but all of the other shades I don't really reach for like ever. So I think this will go in the maybe pile and we will see, and maybe I'll end up just depotting some of those. Next palette is the Celestial Thunder by Videomic Cosmetics. I will also be keeping this guy. I am currently working on this shade right here in my pan that eyeshadows, and overall I just really like the formula of these shadows. I think it's really nice and I will be keeping it. Next palette is my newest palette. This is the At Forest Sight palette with Colourpop and Raw Beauty Christie. It was so disappointing. It is so beautiful though, and I need to play with it more. There's a couple shades in here I like, but it's just so new. I need to play with this more before I ultimately declutter it, but I wasn't impressed initially. I do have a video on this. If you want to see swatches, I will link that one above as well. But yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. Next up is my Daydream palette from Alter Ego. I do really like this palette. It's super pretty. It's pretty similar to the Mauve palette from Dose of Colors, but definitely obviously a lot more options. Has really pretty shimmers in it. These like cream shimmers right here are just really, really nice. Really versatile, really like metallic and in your face. So definitely gonna keep this guy. Next palette is the Beauty Bakery Proof is in the Pudding palette. And I do really like this one as well. It's pretty similar to the It's Judy Time palette now that I'm looking at it, but it's lighter in tones. I really love Mango Pudding and Nana Pudding down here, and it's a pudding palette, and I just think it's really cute. So I'm gonna keep this one as well. Next up is the Revolution Sophex palette. Overall, my palette is really dirty. Overall, I really like a lot of these shades as well. A lot more warmer tone than a lot of the other palettes that I typically buy. So I think for that, I'm gonna keep this one as well. Also, the formula is pretty nice. I do hate that the shades are on this sheet and that's it, but what can you do? Next, we have my Carroty Picante palette, which you guys know how much I adore this. I have pan in this one as well because I've been working on it, and I love this whole bottom row. It makes me so happy. This is one of my favorite palettes from 2020 that I purchased, or did I get this in 2019? Maybe I got this in 2019. Either way, one of my favorite palettes that I've had in a while and definitely will be keeping. Next up is the Alter Ego Sahara palette, which I think is based off of a Huda Beauty. I think both of mine are based off of Huda Beauty. This is a really nice palette, very pretty, very neutral. I really like it for the shimmers mainly, but overall pretty solid palette. Like as you can see, like it swatches beautifully, but like looking at it, I'm like, do I need this palette? Do I really need it? Would I ever finish this? I don't know. I don't really have this shade or this shade. I really like these shades. Yep, probably gonna keep it. And it's probably really frustrating, but it's like I don't want to get rid of stuff just to get rid of stuff. Like I don't really have I like that palette and I would still use it. Next up is our favorite girl on the channel, the Urban Decay Born to Run. She is also on the chopping block for my pan that palette next year. She is the other one. I've really considered it, but these are hard shadows to hit pan on, let alone finish. I already have two with pan on them, and you guys remember Riff. Riff took forever for me to hit pan on, and it's a mid-tone brown. So I don't know, but I feel like me and her have been battling all year, so I feel like putting her in a pan that palette for 2021 would be the ultimate like finishing move. So she might have to be the palette I use next year until completion, but we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments, but she's staying because I do like this palette. Me and her just, you know, we argue sometimes. Now we're in my overly large palettes. This is the Storybook Cosmetics Fairy Tales palette. This is Little Briar Rose. I really enjoy this palette. I think the formula is beautiful. Again, I don't love how bulky it is. It's like part of me loves it because I love the look of these being little books, but they are kind of difficult to store. So that's unfortunate because then I end up not reaching for them because they're bulky, but formula-wise, I think they're great. And I think I'm gonna keep it. I may just depot a lot of these. Next up is my Violet Voss Pro HG palette. And I don't think I need this palette. I really enjoy it, but you guys have now seen I have so many neutrals, and this is so similar to other palettes that I've kept, and I don't really think I need this. I don't reach for it unless I roll it into a challenge sort of thing, and it's just not something I think about. So I think I'm going to declutter this palette. And then last palette is the Zodiac palette from BH Cosmetics. You guys know this guy's not going anywhere. I adore this palette. This is one of my favorites as well. The formula is perfect and beautiful, and if I could, I would probably just use this palette all the time because it's just that pretty and it has so much to offer. She's the pageant winner of this whole pageant that just happened, apparently. I love it. I would buy this all over again if I had to. Like, I would go out and buy another one if someone stole mine. I just love it. It's perfect. Definitely keeping. That leaves my maybes. I feel like I am leaning towards depotting this palette. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna depot it because I don't really like these colors, and I don't really need these. I definitely don't need the brown in my opinion, but I do really like these, and these at the top. So I think I'm gonna depot this one. The Venus 2, I feel like I haven't had long enough to really play with enough to develop a bond with, I guess. So I think I am also probably gonna end up keeping this one, even though I know there's shades I don't really like. I do really love Mustard. I love Jam. I'm gonna keep it, see if I can play around with it some more, maybe figure out something to do with Pigeon to make like a cool grungy look one day. Dream Street's a hard one because I feel like I just really love Dream Street, but then like part of me hasn't been reaching for Dream Street. So like, do I need to keep Dream Street around just because I once loved it? Do I really need to like keep these around? I mean, they're pretty shades, right? But like, do I need it? But like, I'm not angry at it. I'm not angry at it, and I feel like I would still get use out of it. I feel like I would still get use out of it, so I'm gonna keep it. So here is everything I'm getting rid of. I got rid of 3 eyeshadow palettes, 4 if you want to count that I'm depotting some of the ones in the Alamar one. So 4 palettes, and then 7 Super Shocks and 1 single shade. So I think overall I did pretty good, especially with the Super Shocks. They're gone now, so no more of those, and overall pretty pleased. All right guys, thank you so much for watching. That was the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also make sure to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more from me. I have a lot of Project Pan intros coming up soon, so if you like Project Pan, definitely make sure to hit that button. And remember guys, there is always magic to be found, and I hope that means I see all of you guys in my next video. Bye!